So, Brent, I wanted to thank you for letting me use your image. It could be helpful for some that seem to struggle a little bit with the perspective for this large-scale object that we're doing. And your image kind of really has a lot of good information that relates to perspective. So, perspective is basically the idea of how objects recede in space. Creates this illusion of depth in this kind of flat format. And one of the things we can do when trying to determine perspective is kind of follow edges that we believe are parallel. So in the case of a bookshelf, it's pretty safe to assume that these lines are parallel to each other normally. What happens as they recede is that they're actually angling down to your eye level, or what perspective will refer to as the horizon line. And so we can create these guidelines, and this is something you'll learn later on, but it relates to some of the observations you should be seeing. I don't expect you guys to do perspective accurately at this point. Your expectation is basically to focus on observations and what you're seeing. So if you're holding your pencil out, kind of doing the horizontal line just to kind of see where things angle, you should start to get a sense of how these angles change. You know, we can see here kind of close to eye level, this is flat. As we get a little bit lower, we see the top of the shelf, we see it angling up. As we go down, that angle increases. And so that's one of those observations that you are expected to kind of make notice of. But having a basic understanding of perspective like this really will put you in a sense where you could say, well, this should be happening. Why am I not seeing this? And kind of work out some of the details. At this point, we could pretty safely assume this is the right vanishing point. And I can start to check it. So notice the lights work just fine against that. If we take this further, the chair is going to relate to this. The base of the chair, the legs relate. The back. All of these lines, notice, this is the edge I'm following. Right here, the top of the chair falls to this perspective point. And we can go further and start to look at other objects. The pool table, this edge here. So basically what you do is you take an edge, you extend it, that line, create a guideline, and basically that's perspective. If we had a visible in this back leg, we would see that it lined up as well. And it's blocked here. So unfortunately we don't get it. But the picture. And this works well, if you're trying to create fictional space, but you want to still have depth, we could easily edit out this leg and drop in this back leg. Basically kind of break this away if we wanted to. The end table. Basically at this point, I expect that you kind of have the idea that everything's related. So the picture, the ceiling, there's not really anything here that's not. Now this doesn't as well. And in part why is because there's a change in orientation. This front edge is not parallel here. You can see that the chair has been rotated. This chair is flat against the wall. This one's kind of angled into the corner. And so it would have its own set of vanishing points. They would be on the same horizon line because eye level isn't going to change for your viewer. In a two-point perspective situation with what we're seeing here, we're going to get the same here. Now, we don't have a whole lot of really clear left vanishing point information, but we have some basic information and we can look at it. But all of these lines, if we followed them back, are going to converge back off at a vanishing point. And so the right one was very clear. Hopefully you get that impression. This left one's not going to be as clear. But it will be on this, eye level is roughly about there. And so this vanishing point is going to have to fall on that point. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight into how to kind of use your observational skills from drawing to see some of the perspective, and then the perspective kind of helping you help you identify if something doesn't quite feel right, if something's a little bit off, kind of what's going on. Understanding that idea of foreshortening, boxing shapes in, try to deal with that element. So if we're looking kind of at the tabletop, combining that with the perspective, really going to give you a pretty strong sense of space. You're going to get the scale right by boxing things in. You're going to get at least much closer. We see kind of a number of issues where these top planes really have been problematic. And to the most extent, I expect you guys to have a little bit of trouble with that. What we want to do is try to make improvements in our short time. But combining this with perspective, you're going to get a sense of depth. And it can be very strong without a whole lot of effort. It's just kind of understanding some of these basic elements. If you guys are interested, there are more perspective videos on the YouTube page. And of course, I'm available to answer any questions.